really affected Standard. A lot of these really aggressively costed 3-mana Planeswalkers. We have Saheeli, Sublime Artificer, Narset, Parter of Veils, and Teferi, Time Raveler showing up all over the place in this format, and all of them really powerful.
Tomijko is on a mulligan to 6 here. Syed on a 7-card hand.
Yeah. Both players here are looking to basically just jockey for position, try to land some Planeswalkers. I do think the Jeskai deck is a bit favored in this matchup simply because Sarkhan allows you to turn the corner and use your Planeswalkers to pressure your opponents.
Tomijko does have a nice ace in the hole, though. 2 main deck copies of the Elder Spell.
Yeah.
He's going to start this game out with a Thought Erasure. He's going to look at 5 lands, a Teferi, Time Raveler, and a Narset, Parter of Veils.
I mean, this is not a matchup where Teferi Time Raveler is all that impressive. He does only bounce enchantments, artifacts, and creatures, I believe. So Planeswalkers cannot be hit. But some of these Planeswalkers do make bodies. I know Sarkhan the Masterless makes a 4/4 Dragon. Kasmina makes a 2/2 Wizard. And, you know, having a way to bounce them is okay. And it does cycle. At the very least, it draws a card. But in this spot, I think Narset is clearly the correct pick with that Thought Erasure.
And Narset is the take. Teferi left behind. The lands were 2 Interplanetary Beacon, 2 Sacred Foundry, and a Hallowed Fountain. Sacred Foundry entering tap for Zan. We'll go back Oliver's way. Glacial Fortress is the land for turn. Looks like a miss on a 3-mana Planeswalker as we go back to Syed.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big deal because this is all about establishing a presence on the battlefield and then ultimately taking over just because you have more activations every single turn. Zan's going to go ahead and minus and draw a card. Notably, it says up to one of those types of permanents on the minus ability.
Yep, so Teferi down to 1. Zan draws. No action from Tomijko. We'll go back to him. 4th land drop. Here's a Kasmina.
Yeah, and here Zan's getting a little punished actually for going ahead and using the minus on the Time Raveler. Like I said, you know, sometimes you want to bounce those tokens and just doesn't have it. I love that Oliver is more prepared than our token box. Multiple times we've seen Kasmina this weekend, and we just have the old 1/1 Wizards. But Oliver has the 2/2 Wizard that Kasmina generates, so that's nice.
Yeah, he was ready to go. We go back to Syed, just a Sacred Foundry tap, Teferi up to 2. Notably, he's at 21 because of that beacon, but that's not really what this game's going to be about as you see the Wizard attack down the Teferi.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All the Planeswalkers in this matchup that generate creatures are going to have a lot of value because they allow you to apply pressure to an opposing Planeswalker. That's why something like Sarkhan the Masterless is going to be pretty good for 2 reasons. Not only does he generate a 4/4 sometimes, but he also allows you to turn your Planeswalkers into creatures and attack your opponents. But here we're seeing Kasmina do a significant amount of work with the looting effect, getting rid of some dead removal, but also just providing some 2/2 bodies to start chipping away at these 3-mana Planeswalkers.
Powerful turn for Tomijko. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, draw a card. Kasmina, make a wizard, loot away a cast down.
Yeah.
Tap 2 lands.
We're done here.
Yep, no reason to keep playing.
Zan shows 7 lands versus active Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and as my good friend Chief would say,
that ain't it.
This ain't it.
That ain't it.
Now, if you want to check out either of these players' deck lists, I'm going to tell you a few things. First of all, the Jeskai Super Friends deck that Zan Syed and Team Lotus Box are playing this weekend. 3 of the top 4 tables contain one of these decks from one of these Lotus Box players. So this deck is quite strong. Make sure to give it a look. As far as how they're going to sideboard, we're going to get those up on the screen for you. But until then, just use the Cardboard Live extension if you want to follow along. Let's go over the sideboards.
Yeah, so for Zan Syed, the sideboard, 2 copies of Command the Dread Horde. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong side. Let's get the right deck list in front of me. So we have 4 Legions War Boss for Zan.
Love it.
3 Dovin's Veto.
Love it.
3 Prison Realm.
It's okay.
2 Lyric Dawnbringer.
No, thank you.
2 Lava Coil.
No.
A Deafening Clarion.
Absolutely not.
So we have some pressure and some answers to Planeswalkers.
Yeah, and then basically you just choose the pressure and the answer to Planeswalkers. You leave the things in the sideboard that are good against the aggressive decks. Lyric Dawnbringer, Lava Coil, Deafening Clarion, not really where you want to be. Even though the Esper Super Friends deck can generate some creatures. We saw Kasmina generate a couple 2/2s. You don't really want something like Deafening Clarion kind of mucking up your draw.
And then for Tomijko, 2 Enter the God Eternals.
Nope.
2 Command the Dread Horde.
Maybe?
Brings back a lot of Planeswalkers.
It does, but you have to assume that a bunch of Planeswalkers are going to get stuck on the battlefield, since neither player applies a lot of pressure. And without a way to gain a lot of life, the Command the Dread Horde could just do some damage to Oliver and then leave him dead. or just not be that effective because he is at a lower life total. So it'll probably come in because Oliver's going to make Zan like discard a couple Planeswalkers, he's going to kill a couple with the Elder Spell or various other anti-Planeswalker cards, maybe bring in some Duresses and just put them into the graveyard. And then at some point, hit 6 mana, spend 6 mana and maybe like 8 to 10 life, get 2 Planeswalkers out of the deal. That's a pretty good rate.
Yeah, combo with the next card, 2 Duress.
Right.
2 Cry of the Carnarium.
No, thank you.
2 Moment of Craving.
Nah. Spire removal, no.
Yawgmoth's Vile Offering.
Love it. Pretty sure it could kill a Planeswalker. If it doesn't kill a Planeswalker, I don't remember.
It do.
It do? Yeah, because it kills one, brings one back, right?
That is my understanding.
Yeah, card's nuts. It's exactly what you want in the matchup.
Ixalan's Binding.
Love it. In a spot where you can lock out your opponent's Planeswalker and all future draws of that Planeswalker. Particularly good card in this matchup, I think.
3rd Elder Spell.
Yeah, even though I don't think it should be in his deck, definitely bringing it in because it's there.
Dovin's Veto.
Yeah, and that one and the Spell Pierce, I think both come in, just give you a little more cheap ways to interact with those 3, 4, 5 mana Planeswalkers.
So we are seeing a lot of impact from War of the Spark on new standard. A lot of Planeswalkers. Been a pretty impactful set. There's another set coming up. Core sets. Remember, those are back. We have Magic 2020 coming up, and we have an exclusive pre-release playmat for you.
Yeah, this is my cat.
Your cat looks really rad.
Yeah, so this is actually modeled after my cat Jaeger. He's a little orange menace. I really wish he was this chill, honestly. Dude just runs around all night.
So you're saying that your cat does not meditate and stack rocks?
Nah.
So the playmat is lying to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's art. Art's allowed to lie.
Yeah, I mean, it does regularly. That's kind of half of the point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's art.
Yeah.
It's a non-fiction. It's a fiction place, fictitious. But you can check those out. Go.starcitygames.com/pre-release. Get your LGS signed up on it. Get this really cool playmat of a cat that is Todd's cat but does not act like Todd's cat.
Yep.
And we'll get back to some Magic.
All right. Both players. Sorry, go ahead. You first.
So we're looking at 2 Super Friends strategies.
Cool.
Do you have an inkling on which set of Planeswalkers you would like to have in a Planeswalker mirror? I'm going to ignore the fact that I think that Tomijko's Elder Spells are just like a huge ace in the hole. Just talking about the power of the Planeswalkers. Would you rather be looking at Liliana's or Sarkhan's?
Sarkhan's, absolutely. So Liliana is good, right? But her strength is derived from being able to minus and either draw some cards or decimate your opponent's side of the battlefield. And in this matchup, neither of those things happen. So I think the Esper one is favored simply because of the 3 Elder Spells as the catch-up card. But at the same time, I could very easily see a single Sarkhan, the Masterless from the Jeskai Super Friends, just completely dominating a game. And of course, the Legion War Bosses out of the sideboard are a pretty big deal. And if Oliver has left in no removal, then there's a chance that this Legion War Boss in Zan's hand actually just takes over the game on turn 3.
So the tap Sulfur Falls for Zan. Tomijko will shock for a Watergrave to 18. Cast a Duress. We'll get a look at Zan's hand. We have Legion War Boss, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, Narset, Parter of Ales, Karn, Scion of Urza, and 2 Interplanetary Beacons.
Yeah, the beacons allow him to basically splash all these Planeswalkers, even though he has just Sulfur Falls for colored mana. All of the cards in his hand besides Legion War Boss are Planeswalkers, and so he gets a blue from the first beacon, allows him to cast a Narset, and as the game progresses, even if he draws a bunch of Steam Vents, he can still cast that Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
Yeah, and he's set up with that Sulfur Falls. That can cast the War Boss. Take for Tomijko is going to be the Narset. Dress will take that down. We'll go back Zan's way. Interplanetary Beacon. Prison Realm was the draw. He'll pass back.
Yeah, I can't quite cast that one, but doesn't really need to just yet. Unless Oliver has a Thought Erasure or a spot removal spell, this Legion War Boss could get out of hand.
Just a tap Godless Shrine for Tomijko. We'll go to Zan, see what 3 mana spell he wants to start on. It'll be Legion War Boss.
Now, this game, if this game is completely dominated by Legion War Boss, which I think it will be, which is why Zan has these in his sideboard, I think there's a very good chance Oliver pivots after sideboard, goes back to some amount of removal in his main deck, maybe even sideboards Cry of the Carnarium as a way to clear it. But an Oath of Kaya here, a great answer to this Legion War Boss.
Yeah, cleans that up right away. So the token connected. Tomijko went to 17. He'll go back to 20.
Ooh, and another one off the top here. Oliver's going to need a second removal spell, and I can't imagine that his deck has that many.
Here's an attack with the Goblin. Tomijko to 19. Syed will shock for a Sacred Foundry to 18. Going to get a Karn, Scion of Urza.
And this is not only a card draw engine, but at some point he can pivot and start minusing the Karn to create just some construct tokens to start applying pressure to opposing planeswalkers. Though he needs to be a little careful because stuff like Teferi Time Raveler bouncing the token will get rid of it permanently while drawing him a card.
A plus showed a Glacial Fortress and a mobilized district. Tomijko gave Syed the non-creature land. Just the Glacial Fortress go into hand. Tomijko is going to play Narset Parter of Veils. Put that to 3. Take a look at 4 cards. Sorry, this is Kazmina.
Yeah, he's going to create.
He's going to plus it and make it 2/2. Minus it and make it 2/2. I'm out of control. I need to calm down.
Look, I know that your blood is like 30% coffee or whatever,
Yes.
but let's bring it down a notch.
All right, I'm going to do my best for you.
All right, so Zan here going to untap. He has a Karn versus a Kazmina, and the thing about Karn is that it will generate a card every turn, no matter what you do. Tick up, tick down. Either tick down generates an effective card, right? And he can make bodies with Karn if he wants to try to start applying pressure to Kazmina and future planeswalkers Oliver creates. But right now, they're going to be pretty small. So I think just a tick up here, just hitting some land drops, potentially getting another spell off the deal could be good for Zan. I'm curious how he plays the rest of this turn.
Showed a Narset and a Sulphur Falls. Tomijko will give him the Sulphur Falls. Syed will play it.
Ooh.
Here's Teferi Time Raveler.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with a minus on the 2/2 here, and then an attack for 1 on the Kazmina, and that'll put it into a spot where a minus on the Kazmina will ultimately kill it. Oh, it was a Raveler. I thought it was a Hero of Dominaria. My apologies. Now we're, maybe I need to get the coffee out my blood too, huh?
Maybe the problem is just at the wrong level of coffee. Maybe more coffee would help. It's easier to achieve. The Goblin token is going to knock Kazmina down to 2. Syed's going to survey the situation. He's going to pass back.
Yeah, I think Zan's in a pretty good spot here, though Oliver does have a grip full of cards. I feel like this game's going to go on for quite some time, but Oliver definitely wants to find an answer to this Karn. The thing is, if it's Elder Spell, there's a good chance he wants to wait for one more really powerful Planeswalker to be sitting on the battlefield before he deploys said Elder Spell. I'm curious to see if he does.
Isolated Chapel's the land for Tomijko. Leaves up some Spell Pierce mana to pay as he casts Narset Parter of Veils. He's going to take a look at the top 4 with that. Thought Erasure is going to be the pickup.
That's a good one. It's not particularly great usually against Planeswalkers just because they're accruing value while sitting on the battlefield. But in this particular spot, both players are just going to be jockeying for position and just trying to establish a foothold. And something like Thought Erasure can potentially strip Zan of one of his more important Planeswalkers in a turn or two.
Tomijko is going to spend the Kazmina. Here's another 2/2 Wizard. He'll draw and discard.
Allows him to loot away something that might not be that useful right now. I'm curious to see what the choice is.
Had an Oath of Kaya really close to the graveyard. Thinking about it a little bit more, he does land on that discard. And here is the Thought Erasure he found off the Narset.
All right, Prison Realm, Teferi Hero of Dominaria, or Legion Warboss. So pretty tough decision here.
2 more lands as well. A Glacial Fortress he knew about and a Hallowed Fountain. It's interesting. Teferi generally a more powerful card than Legion Warboss, but your interactions points tend to be better at dealing with Planeswalkers. In particular, Tomijko's playing 3 copies of the Elder Spell.
Right, and if he doesn't take one of the 3 mana cards, Zan gets to go land number 6, Prison Realm, get rid of your blocker, Legion Warboss, create another token, send both at Narset, put Narset down to 1. And then he has Legion Warboss, 2 tokens, and 2 Planeswalkers versus an effectively neutered Planeswalker and lands.
Warboss was the take. We'll go back Zan's way.
Alternatively, he could just minus on the Karn, get the Narset, and play Narset and Legion Warboss. It's not a bad play. Or Narset and the Prison Realm. Can also just use Prison Realm to knock off the Narset. Doesn't need to worry about the token too much. So a lot of options here for Zan. I'm very curious what he does.
Teferi Time Raveler up to 2 is where he'll start. Yeah, he's going to wish for something with the Karn. He's going to grab that Narset.
Yep. Notably, the mobilized district in the exile zone right now is another good pick off for the Karn next turn. Just a land that also can become a 3/3 with vigilance and start putting pressure on those planeswalkers.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like I have said the word planeswalker out loud this match more than I have said it in my entire life. My mouth hurts. And I like talking.
That is true.
Hey, screw you, buddy.
Prison Realm for Zan. Assume that's targeting the Narset. It is. That's exiled.
Yep, and now the 2/2 token from Oliver can force a chump block from the Goblin token, but I think that's okay. I think Zan just going to play land number 6 here. Scribes to the bottom, it looks like. He's really, really thinking about how he's going to sequence the next few turns.
Scry seems
dead.
Yeah, it was close leaning no, ended up being no. Card goes to the bottom.
Yeah. So for those of you wondering, if you're just tuning in, that mobilized district has a silver counter on it from the Karn, and Zan actually doesn't play the Narset. Interesting.
Played Glacial Fortress. I believe his pickup was Dovin's Veto.
Ah, that's a good reason not to play it. Does have the Teferi Time Raveler, so the chomp block on the Goblin can protect either of the Planeswalkers if he so chooses, potentially.
Let's see what Tomijko wants to do. He's contemplating a Teferi Time Raveler. That's what he's going to cast. Dovin's Veto will catch that.
Yeah, both players' decks actually look pretty similar after sideboard. They both have a ton of Planeswalkers, a couple of interaction points like Spell Pierce or Dovin's Veto. Oliver has like Duress and some of those same cards. And the difference is all about the minute details. Zan Syed has Sarkhan the Masterless and Legion Warboss to apply pressure to the opposing Planeswalkers, whereas Oliver seemingly just has a couple of 2/2s from like Kasmina, and here just hits four, I guess, creatures / lands. So it had to be just 4 lands. But those on the bottom, that's a miss on Narset, a rare miss at that.
And Narset down to 3, no card selected. The Wizard did get the chump block out of the Goblin, and we'll go back Zan's way.
Yeah, but the one turn from it was all you really needed. Now we get to tick up on the Time Raveler. We get to tick down and get Mobilized District if we want to, and play it as a 3/3 blocker for that Wizard. And right now it only costs 2 to activate, and another Planeswalker could make it cost less than that.
Yeah, normally it's 4 mana to make it a 3/3 creature on the turn. For every Planeswalker and legendary creature you control, it does cost 1 less. So Zan's going to put the Karn down to 5, grab the District. He'll play that as his land for turn.
Yeah, and if he plays 2 Planeswalkers here, the Mobilized District becomes free to use, which is nuts, because it also has Vigilance, so you can both attack and block with it every turn for 0 mana. And for a land that I thought was fairly innocuous at the beginning, the more I see it in play and being used in these Super Friends decks, the better it looks.
Here's a Narset of Zan's own. He's going to minus. Hopefully he can find a card. I see some lands. There's a Spell Pierce at least. I think the first card's an option as well. I didn't see what it was. But he will take Spell Pierce.
Yeah, fine pick here. This prevents the ability of something like Ugin or Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, to come down, or it also just prevents a double spell from Oliver, which is nice.
Time Raveler up to 3. I can't play that. I already played land for turn.
Yeah, it's a minor mistake caught immediately by Oliver, but in this spot, every little inch matters. So, and also you just want to make sure everything stays free and clear. But Zan here really far ahead. 3 Planeswalkers to 1, a Mobilized District to a 2/2 creature. So just getting checked on multiple fronts here.
So we'll go to Tomijko. Narset's going to go down to 1. This time he does have some options. He'll at least be getting a card for it.
Now, if he has a land, he can take this Teferi Hero of Dominaria and cast it, and potentially get rid of the Karn.
And so it's between Teferi and Dovin's Veto. He lands on Dovin's Veto, possibly missing that land.
Yeah, this is fairly aggressive from Oliver, because right now he just doesn't have the ability to cast the Veto thanks to the opposing Teferi Time Raveler. Again, you can only play things at sorcery speed when your opponent has one of those on the battlefield, and counterspells cannot be cast with a spell on the stack.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So he's going to cast Kasmina. Zan's going to Dovin's Veto that.
Yep, and still has the 1 mana up to activate the Mobilized District to protect his Planeswalkers from the 2/2 wizard that was created by Kazmina early on.
So Tomijko will pass back. No follow-up, no attacks.
Yeah, this is looking grim for Oliver, but he's not quite done yet. A single Elder Spell off the top could completely change the tide of this game.
Yeah, that is a hugely impactful card in a matchup like this. Zan's going to try to protect himself. He'll put his Narset down to 1. Look at the top 4.
Yeah, and the first 2 cards were quite good. A Saheeli Sublime Artificer can make a ton of little 1/1 servos, and all those creatures really start to add up and give you some bodies to really start attacking those Planeswalkers.
Yeah, so he grabs that Saheeli.
And that Saheeli will be Planeswalker number 4, so it will make Mobilize District cost 0 mana to activate, which is a pretty huge deal in this spot.
Yeah, that is not bad.
I saw him reach to tap a colorless land. I thought he was tapping the Mobilized District. I was going to go over there and yell at him.
Yeah, he's going to use his beacons, cast Saheeli, gain a couple life, I believe to 26. Activate the District, attack the Narset. That'll get a chump block from the Wizard.
Yeah, and you're seeing just how gross that looks and feels right now from Zan's side. That free activation Mobilized District doesn't even tap to attack. It's crazy. Crazy good.
Teferi is going to go up to 4. Karn's going to go down to make a Karnstruct. We'll get a Matthias Hunt on the battlefield.
Zan knows that he has this game not quite locked up, but he definitely has a really good spot here. And unless Oliver draws a Elder Spell immediately, I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Well, this is kind of a combination I hadn't considered before. Saheeli plus Karn. You can start making you some servo tokens, make that construct really large.
That is adorable. Well, a Kazmina from Oliver. He honestly, if he activates the Kazmina to make a 2/2, he actually has to draw discard, and since he can't draw an extra card with the opposing Narset on the battlefield, he actually just has to discard in order to make a 2/2. That's gross.
Yeah, that is rough. Yeah, he just had the draw and pass. Zan's going to make another Karnstruct to start his turn. Karn down to 1. Presumably, the Teferi will be going up to 5, but he's going to do some combat stuff first. He'll animate the District, attack with the Karnstruct. Going to take down the Narset, and I believe connect for 3 here.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Now, normally you would perhaps want to send both creatures at the Planeswalker to ensure its demise, even in the face of a removal spell, but thanks to Teferi Time Raveler, Zan has no fear of any interaction from his opponent on his turn. And now, post-combat, can choose to draw a card with Teferi Time Raveler if he so chooses, and also can just cast a couple of spells from hand if he has something to play.
Yeah, Teferi actually does go down to 1. He'll draw the card. Opt. That'll make a servo off the Saheeli.
Yeah, servo off the Saheeli. I like this play here. Zan just looking for something to close the game. Wants to find something like Dovin's Veto, number 3. I don't even know if he has 3 in a 75. I assume he has 3 in the sideboard. So looking for another Dovin's Veto, something to protect himself from the Elder Spell specifically, because at this juncture, that's basically the only thing that's going to save Oliver. And at this point, with all these creatures on the battlefield, it might not be good enough.
Scry was to the bottom. Hollowed Fountain tapped as a land for turn, and he will pass it to Tomijko. Needs something like a resolved Elder Spell to get out of this.
Yeah, even if he casts Elder Spell, he doesn't get the benefit from the loyalty counters. And Zan still has a Spell Pierce at the ready, so he still can't go Elder Spell plus Kazmina in the same turn.
And he's just going to scoop him up. Didn't have anything there, so we're all tied up. We're going to go to a Game 3 in this Super Friends mirror.
Yeah, and you see, even though Legion Warboss wasn't particularly impactful, there was an important turn where if Oliver didn't have the Oath of Kaya, the game was going to spiral out of control. On top of that, there was a key turn with a Thought Erasure that had to take the Legion Warboss because Sand was going to do a disgusting double spell turn on the follow-up if he didn't take that Warboss. And without a lot of removal in his deck, Oliver can't really keep up with the Legion Warboss on the battlefield.
We are getting late into Season 1 of the SCG Tour here in 2019. We have one more open stop, then we have the Invitational at SCG Con Summer coming up. If you are not qualified for that Invitational and looking to qualify, check out invitational qualifiers near you. These award invitations to the top 2 finishers, as well as $1,000 in cash prizes to the top 8, SCG points, top 8 playmat. You have that collection of personality tokens as well. Huge fan of the Benny Smith copy token, by the way.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about the SCG points given away at these events is that not only can you accrue 15 points over time to qualify for yourself for an invitational, maybe you don't do super good at 15 IQs or whatever, but you combine that with a day 2 of an open here, maybe you top 16 a classic there, and all of a sudden you have 15 points in a qualification to your next big event at SCGCon. So that combined with the fact that a lot of these players on the leaderboard are just scraping for any points, if there's an off weekend, there's a good chance that you actually get to play against some of the SCG Tour's best because they're going to be hunting for those points too.
Yeah, you can definitely meet a lot of great and cool players at these events. For more information on those and to find locations near you to compete, go to go.starcitygames.com/IQ.
Now, the personality tokens are pretty sweet. I want one, like bad.
I'm sure it'll come.
I'm mad about it. I want one now.
How many tokens have they already made of you in different contexts? Just the one, just the beast?
Just the beast.
Okay.
Rawr.
We're tied. I only have one.
Sure. Yours is more recent, though.
That's true.
I've also been working for the company for 3 times as long as you.
I think we need to get a 2-2 wizard.
Or maybe just twice as long as you. Probably twice as long.
Yeah.
2.5.
This is my 4th year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My 10th.
That's more than twice as long.
I thought you were about to say that's sad.
No.
Okay, no,
you've
that's
been
just my
working
insecurities
for
talking.
a company that makes content about a super fun and interesting game for 10 years. I think that's really cool.
Thanks, man. See, there's this thing that I believe most humans have where you don't think you're good enough.
Oh, yeah. I feel that.
And so you constantly think, oh, man, what am I doing here? Why haven't I been fired? And then every now and then Cedric's like, man, I really wish I'd fired you 5 years ago. And
now you're just kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm doing 13 shows a year.
So I got a sideboarding question for you.
Hit me.
You talked a little bit about Legion War Boss. Do you think that you want that on the draw?
Oh, absolutely. I think just the threat of it forces Oliver to drastically change some of his sideboard plans, and you get to have 4 copies of Legion War Boss that you sometimes draw, and Oliver has a bunch of removal spells in his deck that he sometimes doesn't draw. And if he doesn't draw it, he dies. And sometimes he does draw, and it does nothing.
Zan seems to agree. He's got some War Bosses in the opener. Only 1 land. He'll shock for that Steam Vents. He has an opt, I think 2 opts to look for those lands, though. Tomijko is going to cast a Thought Erasure. We'll get a look at the full hand. Opt, Saheeli, Narset, Warboss, Sarkhan.
That's an insanely threat-heavy hand from Zan. I do not love the keep, but I'm a man of principle. And if a hand has 1 land that can cast 2 ops, I'm usually in the realm of keeping.
I would never mulligan this hand.
Oh, that's fair.
On the draw, I love it. And sometimes you miss and you lose.
Yeah.
And then you got time to go to the contestant stand, It's all upside, frankly.
Now, here's a spot where if I'm Oliver, I just want to 100% take opt and hope that Zan misses his 3rd land drop. And that's the easiest route to victory in a matchup that is not particularly good for you, in my opinion. And also, depending on this particular hand, if Zan draws the lands, his hand is going to be bonkers. A bunch of really cheap Planeswalkers, but looks like Oliver probably has an answer to the Planeswalkers with the Elder Spell, and maybe doesn't have 2 answers for the 2 Legion War Boss. Goes a bit on the gamble side, taking the War Boss and hoping he can clear the 3rd one, or the 2nd one.
Take was War Boss, put a dress into the graveyard. Zan opts, keeps on top. That's got to be a land. And
Gotta be a land.
I like the approach from Tomijko, because if Zan just misses on lands, you just get a free win anyway, right?
That's true, but there's a huge difference between missing with 1 land versus 2.
Sure.
Luckily for Zan, he actually hit both lands back-to-back, so he's going to be in good shape here moving forward.
So Glacial Fortress was the land. We'll go back to Tomijko. He'll cast a Narset. Zan will respond with Opt, looking for a Spell Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking for a Spell Pierce, but also you just kind of want to fire it off anyway, because if you find a 3rd opt here off of the 2nd one, you want to be able to cast that still. So you want to do everything in response to the Narset so you don't get locked out of getting that extra card.
Right. Yeah, depending on the texture of things, there's some other stuff besides the Spell Pierce maybe he wants, and if he scries to the bottom and then draws a Spell Pierce, this is the window where you can cast it.
Exactly.
So the Narset resolves, it'll -2, finds Teferi Time Raveler for Tomijko. Go to Syed.
Gotta say, I'm really liking this build of the Jeskai Super Friends from Team Lotus Box. Not only do they just have Saheeli Sublime Artificer in their deck, along with all these Planeswalkers, but they built it in such a way with things like Opt, where they can sometimes cast 2, maybe even 3 spells in the same turn and generate a bunch of extra servos off those Saheelis that play offense and defense quite well.
So Legion Warboss off of Glacial Fortress as the 3rd land, makes a Goblin token. It's going to attack Narset down to 2. Can Tomijko answer this Warboss?
I mean, that's the question. That's why he took the first one. Maybe he was, scared that he would draw one answer and not have the second. But there's a good chance here that this second Legion Warboss just eats him up. He might have to cash in this Narset looking for an Oath of Kaya or potentially some sideboard card he left in or brought in.
He's going to shock for a Godless Shrine to 18. A Kasmina can be reasonable.
Yeah, Kasmina is fine, but that does get hit pretty bad by an opposing Teferi Time Raveler.
The play is going to be Kasmina. Presumably a wizard coming. Yep, there it is. He will draw and discard.
Yeah, this is pretty bad news for Oliver, I think, if Zan does have the Teferi Time Raveler follow-up. Now, he won't draw the card off the minus, but he will clear the blocker, and he'll be able to send 4 damage at Kasmina, 3 damage at Kasmina and 2 damage at Narset because of the Mentor ability from the Legion Warboss.
So Tomijko will discard that Teferi Time Raveler. Or not. Gonna give it a second guess there. I mean, Zan already knew about it, so no harm in showing him. But he's actually going to discard Teferi Hero of Dominaria and cash in the Narset and finds another Kasmina. Suppose the attacks made the Planeswalkers pretty bad anyway. May as well try to get a card.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely down for cashing in the Narset. I think I would have cashed in the Narset before the Kasmina, because if you find the Oath of Kaya, you just want to cast it immediately, clock that Legion Warboss, and get it off the battlefield. But I think that perhaps the loot was so bad for Oliver that he decided, well, I changed my mind. Now I definitely want to just go ahead and cash this in.
Sure. Warboss makes a second token. Here's going to be an attack. Mentor up one of the tokens, and the Warboss is actually just going to trade with the Wizard token.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty aggressive use of the Legion Warboss from Zan, but I like it because it clears the battlefield for Oliver while also leaving Zan with 3 power. And if his hand is just a couple of counter spells, then this game could be over.
Yeah, seems likely. You play Sacred Foundry tap for turn. We know that there's 3-mana spells in hand.
A lot of 3-mana spells in hand.
Yeah.
At least a Saheeli, and not casting the Saheeli while your opponent's tapped out just seems psychotic. Yeah. Unless you got a Dovin's Veto.
Right, yeah, both Narset and Saheeli in the hand. So here's a Kasmina, there's Dovin's Veto.
Yeah, and here Zan's going to untap. If he has a 5th land, he can play something like Saheeli and hold up another Dovin's Veto if he has it, or just play another 2-mana spell.
Attack for 3, Tomijko to 15, shock for a Sacred Foundry, Syed to 16, and here is Sarkin.
Hubba.
The Masterless,
Give
-3.
Me a Daggeron.
Dragon.
It's a pretty on-flavor card right now, considering what's happening tomorrow. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. I will not be watching tomorrow.
Oh, I was going to say we're going to crown a champion, and they're going to be playing Sarkin the Masterless.
Oh. Nice.
Yeah.
That card seems really good.
It is quite good. That was a joke. I don't know. It's a bad joke.
We're all just doing our best, man. So we go back to Tomijko's way. This Dragon token means this is a 2-turn clock.
Yeah. I mean, the Sarkin threatened to tick up is pretty good here. But the thing, the big story right now, Oliver doesn't have a 5th land, I don't think. Take it back. Does have a 5th land. Immediately punished for saying words. Love it. I think he actually has Time Raveler and Elder Spell, so, ooh.
Cry of the Carnarium.
That is a sideboard card that I thought we might see. That cleans up those 2 Goblin tokens. Oliver not using the Elder Spell, though, to take care of the Sarkhan. Wants to try to snag one more Planeswalker with it, but that's going to let him get popped in the face here for 8 damage instead of just 4.
Yeah, Sarkhan will become a dragon, as he's wont to do. 8 damage rumbling across.
Yeah, now Zan's actually incentivized to play a couple more Planeswalkers, which kind of walks the dog right into the Elder Spell. So I'm curious to see exactly how the rest of this game is played by Zan.
Tomijko down to 7. We're in Zan's second main phase.
Zan also has to be considering an opposing Dovin's veto because of how this game is played out. Oliver hasn't really had a spot for it just yet.
He'll play Saheeli, which I think is showing some respect to a counterspell because the card generally weaker than Narset.
Sure. And also, you just kind of want to get Saheeli down first anyway. It loses a lot of value when you play it as like your last card.
Yep. Tapped Hallowed Fountain, not going to bother with the Narset. We'll go back to Tomijko's way.
It's a lot of lands for someone who kept a 1-lander and didn't draw a land on his first draw step.
Never mulligan that hand.
All right, Time Raveler here. The Spell Pierce from Zan. And this is a great play from Zan, because if he doesn't burn the Spell Pierce here, Oliver he'll never get to use it because of the Time Raveler, and then he gets to basically snag the Teferi, and then now Oliver's forced to play the Elder Spell and not pay for the Teferi.
Yeah, just no pay. Teferi was countered. Elder Spell takes care of the Planeswalkers, but Zan still has 5 power.
Yeah, 5 power. Oliver only on 7 life. Something like Legion Warboss here would be really good, but that Narset that we knew about coming down here, and it looks like it's going to find another Narset at the very least, which is going to mean that we get more looks from Zan over the next few turns to find more gas and close this game out.
A Saheeli would have been lethal this turn, but the Narset's still pretty good. Here's an attack for 5.
Yeah, that's a really cool interaction, is that Saheeli can let your servo copy any other creature in play, including that dragon token.
Follow up for Syed, Teferi Time Raveler, bounce nothing, draw a card. We see him do that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Teferi is just great because at the very least it just cycles while giving you a really powerful static ability. And at the best, it's like clowning a dragon token and drawing you a card. It's just it's nuts. Oh, actually, the best is when you plus, and then you just get to absolutely obliterate your opponent with a Kaya's Wrath during their attack step.
And Kasmina concede for Tomijko. Zan Syed wins this match 2-1. He's on to 7-1 in this tournament. Jeskai Supervens looking